News breaking today that Oregon quarterback Dante Moore will, in fact, return to school for his junior year. And now with Fernando Mendoza all but certainly going to the Raiders at number one, what do the Jets do? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this past week's wild card games. Also going to do a little bit of stay or go. Jets got quite a few free agents, and we are going to talk about all of that. Guys, you know the deal. It's Wednesday night. It is 7 p.m. Eastern, and we are live. And welcome everybody to New York Sports WickerMedia. I am your party host, Wa2K99, here for our weekly Wednesday night live extravaganza, our very first show starting at the 7 p.m. Eastern hour. The new job started this past Friday. It's going pretty well so far. The commute is real. I went from a 5-minute commute to a 50-minute commute, but I think it's going to be worth it, believe it or not. But so we had to push the start time back an hour. Appreciate everybody supporting, coming out for this, and being understanding. So 7 p.m. is our new spot. That is when I plan to be doing it for about as long as I can possibly do it. So anything crazy happens, I will most definitely let you all know. So if you're joining, feel free to leave a comment. You got some thoughts, got some questions, just something you need to get off your chest in general. We're here for each other. We're here to interact. The show is a whole lot more fun when we get to talk. So go ahead and leave your comments. I know we got a few people here in the chat already. Tony Alexio likes the hours, better hours. Yeah, hey, hope it works for as many people as possible, for sure. So 7 p.m. works better for you, then I think that's great. All right. So we're going to get into the NFL in just one moment, but I'm just going to get I got to do a little bit of 3 and out real quick, just get a few quick things just off my chest. First of all, for the Knicks, thank God Josh Hart is back. And what's crazy is with the New York Knicks, they seem like a deep team. Like they use their bench now, whereas last year that was never a thing. But every time the Knicks lose a player, it feels like the team takes a hit, whether it's Landry Shamet, whether it's Mitchell Robinson, whether it's, as we just saw, Josh Hart. The Knicks went into a brutal tailspin with him gone. Each of these players adds an element to the roster that is not there when they disappear. And that's not even getting to Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges. So even though I'm still optimistic about where the Knicks can go, I am a little bit worried, but they continue their West Coast trip tonight. They're in Sacramento tonight and then Golden State Thursday, so it is back-to-back days. As far as baseball goes, this is sort of like the wait and see, edition of 3 and out. I'm waiting to see what happens with the Knicks. I'm waiting to see what happens with baseball, free agency. Oh my gosh, it moves like a tortoise through molasses in summertime, okay? In a desert, going uphill both ways. All right, I'll stop there. But Kyle Tucker, when is Kyle Tucker going to sign a contract? The most coveted free agent on the market. The news has been moving over the last week that the Mets offered a $50 million a year short-term contract. The Dodgers are in the mix. The Blue Jays are in the mix, and yet nobody seems to want to sign as of late. I mean, a lot of starting pitchers still on the market. Ranger Suarez actually left Philly for Boston. And to be honest, I wasn't overly sold on him anyway. I'm just glad he's out of Philadelphia. But it doesn't eat up the innings that I would want him to. But the Mets need something, and they need something quickly because they cannot sell this edition or this roster to the fan base going into the 2026 season. They've subtracted, and barely added, especially since the big three, the big four are left in Nimmo, Alonso, Diaz, and McNeil. So moves are still, in my mind, desperately needed for the New York Mets. And if Kyle Tucker does sign, or Cody Bellinger, either one of those two, I'm not saying that fixes everything. I'm not saying it gets me overly excited, but it goes a long way. And then very quickly with the Giants, well, John Harbaugh got out of the building. On to Tennessee, on to Atlanta. They couldn't convince him to stay. So let's see what happens. And, watch your Giant fan friends just go nuts. It is kind of fun. I do have to admit. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get rid of that. And I think we need to do, well, we're not going to do the Jet stuff just yet. I got to do a little wild card recap. The great David D is here. Greetings to you, my friend. Hope you're having a fantastic week. Tony says, Glenn, better act faster on finding a DC and quarterback coach with all the coaching changes. Well, no one's hired an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator as of yet. I think what we're waiting for right now is the head coaching jobs to fall into place first. You're seeing coordinators get let go, but nobody's gotten hired yet. Okay, so after the head coaching thing goes down, because remember, there's 9 vacancies, and we'll get into all of them later on. But there's 9 vacancies right now. I don't see too many defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators signing before a head coach does. But hey, we'll find out what happens. So I'm not worried about it yet, just 10 days after the season ended. But obviously the sooner the better, but you know what? Do it right. Keep this in mind. The Jets haven't announced any coaching changes just yet. I'm willing to bet in the next several days, by this time next week, there'll be a press release that comes out of some kind that the Jets are letting these coaches go. These coaches are staying, and I would expect a good portion of that defensive staff to be overturned. But again, I would hire the defensive coordinator first, and we've talked about the different candidates. I'll get into that a little bit more also. But yeah, hire the coordinator first, and hey, yeah, and then we'll see what happens. But yeah, and we'll talk about Charles London too. I got a little Charles London narrative that might surprise a few people, but I got a couple of things that I need to get off my chest as far as Charles London goes. Okay, I'm going to do a quick recap of the wild card games, and then we're going to get into all the Jet stuff. Hey, think about this, guys. This is the first time in 3 months, no tankathon. It feels like that's just like without tankathon. Tankathon has become as much a part of the show as trivia has. Or 3 and Out has. But right now, can't be doing the tankathon. So we move on. All right, wild card recap. Just want to give a couple quick thoughts on these games. The Rams beating the Panthers. It was actually fun being out watching the game with other Carolina fans. I thought this game would be a battle. It was. And to me, the best offensive play of the week was Stafford's touchdown pass to Colby Parkinson. 19 yards, 38 seconds left. Panthers with a huge drop pass on the next drive to end it. Puka Nacua, just insane how good he is. But I do want to point out, Davante Adams had a nice drop on the final drive, and after what he said in the pregame, taking a shot at the Jets, that one's for you, Davante, you prick. As far as Bears-Packers go, great win by the Bears. They get their first playoff win in 15 years. Crazy. Coming down from 21-3 down. Packers were up 15 in the fourth. Jordan Love was clicking. 3 touchdowns in the first half. But I worried without Micah Parsons, the Packers would not generate a consistent pass rush, and they didn't. Bears scored 25 points in the fourth quarter. I've said the Bears have the mojo. They're winning games. They're like Washington last year. The Bears are winning games they have no business winning. Here's what I didn't expect. The Bears to win the game without turning Green Bay over one single time because the Bears defense lived on turning the other team over. They didn't. And they still won. So credit to them. And now it's Bears-Rams. It's going to be a good one. Buffalo-Jacksonville, not much to say. I thought Jacksonville was built to counter Buffalo pretty well, especially with the run defense. And it was a very, very close game. But Josh Allen just made one more play than Trevor Lawrence did. Credit to the Bills. And now they stay on the road. And now up they go to Denver, and it's amazing. Most people seem to be picking Buffalo to win that game. Philly and San Francisco. As soon as that, there's certain cities, when one of their teams loses a big game, I got to listen to their sports radio just to feel better. And it's really Philadelphia and Boston. Those are the 2 cities. Once in a while, Detroit. Like, I want to hear Mike Valenti because I like him. But I got to listen to – and also Chicago, depending on the team. If it's a Cubs loss or a Bulls loss, it's really devastating. I want to hear it. But pretty much always for a big Boston loss or a big Philly loss. I had to listen to Broads. I had to listen to the NBC Philly guys. Wow. Their offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, did get fired. But he was more hated than Jonathan Gannon was after the Eagles lost that Super Bowl to Kansas City. Because Gannon was the Philly defensive coordinator, and the next day, fire Gannon, fire Gannon, fire Gannon. Eagles lose this game. Get rid of Patullo, get rid of Patullo. Well, they got their pound of flesh. And that San Francisco defense, Robert Saleh, excellent defensive coordinator, lousy head coach. Okay? Can we agree on that? We understand that? To all the people saying Robert Saleh deserves a second chance. No, I don't. No. He's a great defensive coordinator. That defense was so beat up. They were down to their 6th and 7th linebackers. It was so bad, they wished that Quincy Williams and Michael Walker were on the roster. But credit to Kyle Shanahan. He just can outcoach anybody at a given time. That reverse and pass and just beautiful. Pats Chargers, nothing game. I was hoping the Chargers beat up OL, could handle the Pats front seven, but they swarmed. Spillane, Williams, Landry, all looked healthy for New England. That spells bad news for the rest of the AFC. And with Houston, Pittsburgh, credit to the Texans defense. I thought that game would be super close, but finally Pittsburgh, their offense just broke. And I wish the Texans all the best as they head to Foxborough this coming Sunday. All right, we got the wild card out of the way. I didn't really want to see that. All right, let's go ahead and talk some New York Jets football. So what the heck? I got a chant in me. Let's go. All right, Jets, Jets. I'm going to start with a complaint because why not? The Pro Bowl results came out and not one Jet made first or second team, even on the special teams. Austin McNamara finishes third in the punting. Kenny Nwangwu and Isaiah Williams both finished fifth in returning, which is ridiculous. And Nick Folk, who led the league in field goal percentage, had one missed kick all year, was sixth. Absolutely ridiculous, but it just goes to show you when you're that bad of a team, you're not going to get the benefit of a doubt from anybody. All right, so what I want to do is talk quarterbacks here. It's time to get into this right now. And I want to point this out about the playoffs. Of the 8 playoff teams who are still alive in the playoffs, right? 6 of them drafted and developed their own quarterback. The other 2 teams took first-round picks from other teams, Seattle with Sam Darnold and the Rams with Matthew Stafford. But the simple fact is, if you look at the 8 teams remaining, all of them have a first-round quarterback leading their franchise. Well, except, now that, the one exception would be Brock Purdy. Yeah, everybody else. It's Purdy and everyone else. So it just goes to show you, hitting that hard on a quarterback not picked in the first round is an anomaly. You know, you could talk about Russell Wilson. You could talk about these different quarterbacks, Brady, and everybody else, but it is far and away the exception, not the norm. And now we have to think about coaching. And we talk about the defensive coordinator, but the truth is the Jets need a change in their offensive coaching staff as well. It may be a new passing game coordinator. It may be an assistant to Tanner Engstrand. It's something. Now, the popular name, and I like this one, is Bobby Slowick. C.J. Stroud has never been the same since Slowick left after that amazing rookie season. But Slowick comes from the Shanahan coaching tree, was the OC with Houston when they drafted Stroud, helped him become Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2023. Last year, he was in Miami, believe it or not. Slowick was in Miami as the senior passing game coordinator. Now that Mike McDaniel has been canned, there's a good chance Slowick moves on too. That's a very interesting option. If he's willing to come in and not be the flat-out offensive coordinator, because I'm sorry, I'm not letting Tanner Engstrand go after 1 year with what he had to work with last year, which wasn't much. All right. Now, as far as Charles London goes, I gotta say this. Can we take it easy with the Charles London narrative? Look, if you want him gone, if you want him out as quarterback coach, that's fine. I would like a different quarterback coach too, one who's particularly experienced doing it. But every day I see certain Jet accounts on Twitter saying, why is Charles London still? It's been 14 days since the season ended. Why is Charles London still here? As if he's the chief problem with the offense. Like if the Jets replace Charles London, the offense is magically fixed. All right, the coaching changes will be announced soon enough. Yeah, I'm not saying Charles London's a solution, but I'm not exactly saying he's the Keith Carter of quarterback coaches. If you know, you know. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the college quarterbacks and what we're looking at right now. We're going to do a brief summary right now of kind of after this past weekend. We'll do more in-depth scouting reports as the weeks go on. But I want to talk about a few of these players after what we watched in the college football playoff semifinals. Indiana, amazing victory. It was the first game that I promised I would watch start to finish. And by halftime, I said, what the hell's the point of watching any more of it? Indiana trounces Oregon 56-22. Fernando Mendoza, he only completed 17 passes for 177 yards, but 5 of those 17 passes went for touchdowns. You can see he's super polished. He can make every throw. He anticipates brilliantly. That's something I try to look for. I look at some of these Jet quarterbacks. I look at Justin Fields. I look at Brady Cook, and they were waiting for a receiver to have like 10 yards of separation from anybody else before they threw the ball. And that got incredibly, incredibly frustrating for us as fans. It got frustrating for the coaches. It had to get frustrating for the offensive line too, because they had to fight off that defensive line, fight off that front seven for 10 seconds. And it was just absolutely ridiculous. But Mendoza, clearly he's a gamer, great attitude. I would say it's 99% that the Jets are not going to have a chance to draft him. And what are you going to do? We never thought at the beginning of the season the Jets would be in that kind of a position anyway to pick number 2. And at the same time, I don't think too many Jet fans thought that Justin Fields was the solution when they signed him. I think they viewed him as a bridge quarterback. I know I did. I felt at the beginning of the year that the future of Jets quarterbacking was not on the roster. And I was thinking the Jets would win 5-6 games. 6 games was my realistic target. And I thought they'd pick around 12, 13, somewhere in there. So they're picking way higher. So they have a better chance to turn this thing over than I think we ever would have expected. Yes, it sucks they finished behind the only other team that 100% needs a quarterback. But I expected to be behind 10 or 11 other teams as well. So let's see what happens. All right, now we need to talk about this genius. Let's talk about Dante Moore, why don't we? Jet fans, how are we feeling about Dante Moore? All right, that's pretty good. All right, so he did not play well in this game, no doubt about it. First play of the game was a pick 6. I really did think, though, the Indiana defense played exceptionally well. They overwhelmed the Oregon offensive line. And then when we got the news on Monday that Dylan Raiola was transferring from Nebraska to Oregon to play quarterback, a lot of us were suspecting at that point, okay, Moore's going to be, coming out. Raiola must have had a little bit of a clue. But at the same time, I thought, wait. Quarterbacks, a lot of players are willing to transfer and maybe be on the bench to help them learn if they don't really feel like they're ready at that point. And Dante Moore is an example of this. Remember, he went to UCLA, then he transferred to Oregon and was willing to sit for a year because he didn't think he was ready. Moore is very self-aware, okay? He's very intuitive. He's very cerebral. And because he is such a thinker, thinking, I was like, this is not a slam dunk. And the thing with Raiola, 5-star recruit, could have started for many other colleges, but he chose Oregon. I guess for the developing, I guess. So we now get the news that Dante Moore has indeed returned to Oregon. The news came down about 2:30 this afternoon. Of course, he had to do it, the decision style, like he was LeBron James. Please, okay. Just absolutely ridiculous. He could have sent out a social media thing. It could have been a press conference, but he had to go on SportsCenter to do that. So Dante Moore, we before I get into my opinion of this, even though we never really knew you, we have something to say to you. So Dante Moore, we wish you the best going back to the Ducks, but we don't want you anywhere near Jet Life Stadium. So Dante Moore, as far as you're concerned, here's what we have to say. He gone is right. That's right. I'm busting out a he gone for Dante Moore. He don't want us. He don't want the NFL right now. Get the hell out of here and stay on the West Coast. That's what I say. And if you look at the money, I mean, the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft is due 4 years, $52.5 million. That's the fully guaranteed part of it, not even including the 5th-year option. It includes a $34 million signing bonus. So Dante Moore chose to stay in school and come out next year when the quarterback class will be much better. He's taking a risk. He's betting on himself that he's not ready for the NFL. And to be honest with you, watching that game, I didn't think he was ready for the NFL. So you know what? I feel good about it. I'm glad he's staying, and I'm glad the Jets are not going to have the temptation to draft him. I'm not. Tony says that Moore screwed the Jets on trade down picks. Maybe so if there was another team that was that in love with him. Maybe. But would the Jets have passed on Dante Moore if he was there? We know the situation with this franchise. Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji realize they need to start winning next year if they're going to keep their jobs and they're going to build up some confidence and build up some stability. Okay? The timeline doesn't work. When Dante Moore is likely going to need a year sitting on the bench and holding a clipboard, and Glenn and Muji realize they need to get going quickly, or a similar result to this season could result in both of them being gone, okay? It doesn't line up, and it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. The Jets can move on to other players, all right? Anybody who's saying that this proves Dante Moore didn't want to be a Jet, they're speculating. It is nothing more than speculation. I think it's because the kid is very self-aware. He realizes what's best for him. His choice to transfer colleges reflects that. And you know what? If he doesn't want us, then we sure as hell don't need him. So I'm not upset about it. I'm genuinely not upset. Boy, Johnny Ola. How you doing, Johnny Ola, 3,800? Dante Moore doesn't want to play for the Jets. Again, we're just speculating when we say that. We don't know. I think Dante Moore does not feel like he's ready to play in the NFL next year. That's what I truly believe it is. I think he knows that he is not ready, and that game against Indiana reflected that completely from start to finish. Yes, he had the one nice drive after Indiana scored that early touchdown. Outside of that, he was horrific. Johnny wants Arch Manning in 2027. Well, with 3 first-round picks, the Jets have their own, plus the Colts, plus the better of the Cowboys and Packers. There is a chance all of those could be in the top 18 or top 20. And the Jets could then trade up very possibly and get whoever they want. So you know what? Better to wait a year and get a bridge quarterback, like a mid-round quarterback, while you're building the rest of this team up, and then in comes the quarterback, and now you got something to work with. So I'm expecting another year where it's going to hurt, guys. I'm expecting another down year. Certainly it's got to be better. But right now with that, and I don't want to go with a record prediction already when we haven't had an off season. I feel like that's a little bit premature. But if they could get to 7 or 8 wins, that's substantial progress, especially against a schedule that looks pretty challenging right now. If that happens, that'll give us some optimism. And like I said, the Jets would have the ammo to trade up and get the quarterback that they possibly want. Nick says, you know what Enzo Amore would say about Moore? Well, there's only one word to describe him, and I'm going to spell it out for you. S-A-W-F-T. Soft. I do miss those days. I got to say of Enzo and Cass and Carmella. And you can't teach that. If you know, you know. Check out Nick's channel if you haven't. If you're a fan of pro wrestling, definitely check it out. Subscribe. He does a very, very entertaining show. Talks about all things going on in the world of pro wrestling. You and I might need to talk about the Royal Rumble, my friend, and what's coming up. I'm glad you appreciated that, brother. Not a good financial decision if Moore becomes like Aller. Yeah, Tony's saying it wouldn't be a good decision on Moore's part if he winds up getting hurt. That's the risk he takes, and he has to be aware of that. So it's a big, big decision. But now think about this. If the Jets had drafted Dante Moore and been like, okay, the high ceiling is there, but the floor is really low. Now you can move on to other players who are you can be more confident in the Jets drafting them. There's no such thing as a sure bet. But now you can move on to players like Reuben Bain, like Carnell Tate, like a Sonny Styles, all these different types of guys, and figure out who they want to get. And even though the idea of trading down still does appeal to me, we have to come back to this. Who would want to trade up, and who would they want to trade up for? That is the $1 million question, because there's certain folks who every year want to trade down. God bless them, okay? And I could see that very easily happening with that number 33 pick, with that first pick in the second round. That is the pick I would bet on the Jets trading, because a lot of people are going to wind up and grab that once they have a chance to reevaluate and reassess the draft board. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. But I can't tell you right now, absolutely, this is the player the Jets should be drafting at number 2. I'm not there yet. but I look forward to breaking this stuff down and trying to figure it out. No, without question. Because let's be honest, outside of offensive tackle, kickers, and returners, what don't the Jets need right now? You know, what don't they need? You can make an argument for any. You could almost even argue for the Jets letting go of Breece Hall and drafting Jeremiah Love. You could almost make that argument if you wanted to. All right, I'm not that I'm keen on drafting a running back with the second overall pick, but a lot of people say Love is the biggest game breaker that's in this draft, offense or defense. So we got to keep that in mind. So if the Jets keep all 4 picks and they just go best player available every time, I'm good with it, regardless of position. I mean, last year, I never expected the Jets to go 3rd round with a cornerback. I didn't expect A.Z. Thomas. I didn't really pay attention to the name of the scouting reports. So that taught me the Jets will go after whoever they feel is best. You got to be ready for anything. You really, really do. And look at it this way too. You know what the worst thing here's what I think the worst thing is. The worst thing could have been, in my mind, Dante Moore played great in that game, and the Jets got enamored like they did with Zach Wilson and other quarterbacks over the years, and that performance could have winded up being the exception because he wasn't ready. Remember, 29 college games is all Dante Moore has played. He's not ready to step in, especially he's not ready to step into New York. Nick agrees with Tony. Yeah, Nick and Tony. I'm pretty sure that's got to be a pizza place somewhere around here. Nick and Tony's. I like that. Thought Moore cost himself a lot. He's going to drop. Very, very likely. Very, very likely. He's not going to go over Manning or Sellers next year. Very, very likely. Tony wants to trade down. I get it, man. I would like it. If the Jets could trade down a few spots and pick up a 3rd-round pick as well, I would be pleased with it because there's a number of players I'd be interested in. But maybe my opinion will change. Maybe the more that I do research and look at some of these players, I'll be like, no, I want this guy right here. I want this guy. Maybe it will happen. Sonny Styles desperately needed for the Jets. I agree. I think the challenge will be Dallas. I could see Dallas being the kind of team that would absolutely want him. I've seen several Cowboy fan posts and blogs that are looking at that. And the Cowboys picked 12th overall, okay? So I don't think it's a situation where Styles would drop to 16. All right? It might be a situation where if you trade down, now you could think about Sonny Styles. Because I don't know if I'm taking him at 2, but yeah, I would really, really like him on this team. I mean, are you taking a linebacker at number 2? But man, if he could drop to 16, I'm running that card up to the board. No doubt about it. Or pushing the button or whatever the hell they do nowadays. All right. So let's enough of Dante Moore for right now. Of course, if you have more thoughts, let it go. But I want to talk, let me have it. But I want to talk about some of the other quarterbacks real quick. Trinidad Chambliss, does he want to be there? Does he want to be in this draft? He now plans to file suit against the NCAA for an appeal so he can stay in school and play a 6th year in college. The thing with him, tell you one of the things I like about Chambliss. When he's under pressure, he is amazing. He has a 79.0 PFF grade when pressure. That is number 1 in the country. I am very intrigued by Trinidad Chambliss. As a matter of fact, right now, he is definitely, after Mendoza, I put him ahead of Ty Simpson. I might just do that. And I think a lot of people have talked about Ty Simpson. Again, we'll break down quarterbacks more and more as the weeks go on. Remember, we've got 3 months of doing this, okay? 12, 13 shows, something like that. We'll have plenty of time to go over all the quarterbacks and really look at their strengths, their weaknesses, and who fits. I just don't want to give you the same info every week for 3 months. Dino asks, do you think Bain is worth the 2? Most of what I've seen seems to say that he would be, at least in this draft class. I don't think this is what I would call a great draft class. It is very deep in certain positions. I didn't mention Arvell Reese. I don't think I mentioned Arvell Reese, so I do apologize about that. Bain, put it this way. I would go, if I meant Bain, the defensive end for Miami, Arvell Reese is probably who I would really want. If they could get a defensive player and a wide receiver with those 2 things, a game-breaking front 7. Okay. Yeah, Caleb Downs at safety is tempting. I just don't know if I can go first round safety. But I need somebody who can legitimately disrupt the quarterback, take a little pressure off JJ and Will. And you need that number 2 receiver across from Garrett. And remember, this trip is very, very, very deep wide receiver. I definitely think the Jets are going to come out of this, are going to reload this wide receiver room. A.D. Mitchell might even be your number 4 wide receiver. If you have Mitchell 4, Mitchie 5, and even Arians 6, I'll go to war with it. We'll see. We'll see what number 2 and 3 are, but I can't imagine that if the Jets bring in a quarterback, they are not going to do everything they can to surround him with game breakers. Because we've seen again and again, you can't just draft a quarterback and expect him to lift everybody up. You have to put players in place, systems in place that lift the quarterback up as well, so he can then in turn lift everybody else up. I don't know if I would take Wade at number 2 again. I've got to look. I've got to watch a lot more. I'm not the biggest college football watcher. Okay, watching the pros, doing all of that, it takes up enough time for me. But yeah, Arvell Reese, because he could play 3-4-4-3, Reese would probably be pretty much right up there at the top. So that's what I would be. That's what I would be thinking. Now, I do want to spend a minute on Carson Beck, believe it or not. And some people really like Beck, some really don't. If you have some thoughts on Beck, put them in the comments. I do want to see what you all think. I want to get a feel for where the chat is. Bill Parcells had certain rules about drafting quarterbacks. He had a couple of things, and I want to go through those. A quarterback had to be a senior, had to be a graduate, had to have started for at least 3 years, must have started at least 30 games, must have at least 23 wins, must complete at least 60% of his passes, and must post an at least 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And Carson Beck checks off every one of those boxes. I don't think Beck has the highest ceiling in the world, but I think he has a high floor to where he could be, at the very least, a good NFL quarterback. He's a winner. That is something the Jets lack. A couple things about Beck. I want to talk about his history because I really don't feel like people are talking about him enough. He won a Florida State championship in high school, was named 2018's Mr. Football in the state of Florida. Didn't play much in the 2 title-winning years at Georgia, but he was exposed to what works. He was exposed to winning. In 2024, he led Georgia to the 2024 SEC championship, went 24-3 as a starter at Georgia. But he got hurt in the championship game. That ruled him out of the college playoffs. Who knows what would have happened? So then, now he's led Miami, a team that was not expected to do a whole heck of a lot this year. He's led them to the national championship game. Now he gets a chance to face an Indiana defense that's allowed only 11 points per game. That's the second best mark in the nation. If Carson Beck has a big game, watch out. He will be right up there with Simpson, with Chambliss. In fact, he could even supersede it. He really, really could. A couple of stats on him. When he has a clean pocket, he's lethal. He's 6th in completion rate in the country, 77%. But here's the thing. He's been under pressure only 16% of the time. That's the lowest rate in the FBS. Now, we know the Jets have a good offensive line in place with Olu, with Tip, although I'd like to see him get extended this offseason because now he's eligible, and Armand. All right? And then you fill in one of the guard spots with either Simpson or AVT. We'll talk about that a little later when we get into stay or go. Then you bring in a center, and I'm probably going to yell this every week. You bring in Tyler Linderbaum. That is priority number 1 in free agency for me. That's who I want right now more than anybody. But there are other centers out there. Ethan Posich, Connor McGovern, the one from the Bills, not our old Connor McGovern. And you have a fantastic, in my mind, offensive line. Again, Josh Myers, I know he was signed to a larger contract. He is a backup. All right? Josh Myers was the weak link on that offensive line. He's fine if he has to fill in for a couple of games. You cannot have him starting 17 games for you. He gets exposed, and that's what happened this offseason. Now, I'm still open to trading down, okay? I'm still open to trading down. Beck right now is scheduled to go somewhere between the 2nd and 5th round. If he has a big game, that could be number 2 or even late in the 1st. Maybe the Jets pull a Giants where they trade back up late in the 1st round to draft Carson Beck. You never know, guys. I'll be fascinated to see how he does against this Indiana defense. I will be watching him very closely, especially what kind of pressure does Indiana get on him the way they got on Dante Moore. I'm fascinated where this goes. The great Billy SBC is here. What a relief Moore went back to school, was worried about it. I saw you in the in one of the chats a little bit earlier on. So, yeah, that was very cool. I try to watch what I could, but starting a new job, it's a little bit difficult to interact. And even on my long drive home, I can listen, but I can't exactly interact with the chat. But yeah, I was definitely watching O'Leary and Jeremy on, which was I thought they did a very good job. I watched Ryan's video for a little bit. I watched 24/7. Jet Central I watched for a couple of minutes. Didn't have much time. Of course, Jake was going off on Aaron Glenn again. So I was like, I can't listen to every show being about killing Aaron Glenn. I can't listen to it. All right. I'm trying to find solutions with what we have. That's just my mindset. But I agree with you, Billy. I'm glad he went back. I can't tell you that I'm over the rainbow happy, but I am. I was hoping he would go back. So that is where I am. All right, let's talk about the head coach situation a little bit. We now have 9 vacancies in Miami and Pittsburgh. That's why I got them marked off onto the list from what we saw last week. Now, Mike Tomlin, this is the big one. Now, the expectation right now is he sits out 2026. Of course, I'm hearing certain podcasts, the Jets need to get Mike Tomlin in the building right now and get Aaron Glenn out. Did you look at Mike Tomlin's face over the last couple of weeks on the sideline in Pittsburgh? He looks burned out. He needs a rest. He needs some time off to recharge. And also remember, Pittsburgh still controls his rights because he stepped down. He was not fired. So at that point, maybe you have to give up less to get him in. Would I like Mike Tomlin here as a head coach? If it didn't work out with Aaron Glenn, absolutely I would. But I think it might be a situation where he would be best off taking 1 year, and maybe that lines up with the Jets' timeline. It could go that way. But we have to give Tomlin a little bit of credit. He coached Pittsburgh for 19 years. He coached there going back to 2007. 2007. In those 19 years, the Jets have had not 1, not 2, not 3. Let's keep going. They have had 7 head coaches in that time. Eric Mangini, Rex Ryan, Todd Bowles, Adam Gase, Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, and now Aaron Glenn. The Jets have as many coaches in, 3 years as the Steelers had going back to 1969. Think about that. Think about that. Oh, my gosh. And so then we talk about the defensive coordinator situation. I'm just going to remove this for just 1 second here. And I'll tell you the biggest thing that worries me right now with the defensive coordinator search is that Vance Joseph, the Broncos DC, is getting head coach interview opportunities, which a year ago at this time, we never would have thought that would have happened. Bronco fans about a year and a half ago were desperate to get Joseph out. They liked him about as much as we like Steve Wilkes. Okay, not a whole lot. But Joseph has virtual interviews lined up with the Giants, the Ravens, the Cardinals, the Raiders, the Titans, and the Falcons. Some have happened and some are still scheduled. But of the 9 known openings, 6 of them reached out to Vance Joseph. And that doesn't include the 2 that just opened, Miami and Pittsburgh. The ones that were open last week, there were 7. 6 of them reached out to Vance Joseph. They're interested in him, and there's a good chance he could get a job. Now, here's the problem. If he gets promoted, if he gets a head coach job somewhere else, who's going to get promoted to defensive coordinator in Denver? Jimmy Leonard, very likely, because they're going to want to secure him there. So I sincerely hope Vance Joseph does not get a head coaching job, because that takes one option off the table for the Jets. Some people like Wink Martindale, some don't. Look, I know he gets results. I know he instills an aggressive attitude that lines up with Aaron Glenn, and his teams get turnovers. I know that for a fact. The biggest question I have, would he and Glenn get along? We don't know the answer to that. But I'm interested in Martindale, but he better be here for a while, Otherwise, I would be willing to go a little bit younger. Somebody with I would be willing to go coordinator. I would go Al Harris in Chicago. I would do that. Jim Schwartz is going to be a tricky one. Jim Schwartz is getting head coaching offers as well, or head coaching interviews as well. So you have to wait really for this head coaching cycle to sort of start to fall into place. So it's like the first domino falls, more dominoes will fall. And because some of these guys are looking for head coaching opportunities. So Joseph and Schwartz in particular are the ones that you got to pay attention to. We'll see what happens there. About the only Tony wants Jim Leonard and wants him fast. I think it's going to take some time, for all of this to happen. I think it's going to take a few weeks. But again, no one's been hired yet. No one's been hired as an OC, a DC, or an HC. So until that happens, I'm not freaking out. Not just yet, anyway. The only name that we've really heard, wink a little bit, but the only other name that we've heard, and this is not a name I knew very well, is this guy, Dante Jones. So I wanted to do a little research and find out just who is Dante Jones and how do we feel about this. So let's talk about his history. So in 2016 and 17, he was with Miami. He was the assistant D-backs coach. 2018 and 19, he was the cornerbacks coach in Cincy. 2020, the DB coach in Minnesota. So clearly working in the secondary. 2021, he left the NFL, went to LSU, and was their defensive coordinator for 1 year. 2022 went back to the Vikings, became defensive backs coach again. So he took his old job for 1 year. And then 2023, for the last 3 years, he's still been in Minnesota, and he has been the defensive pass game coordinator. So he's had a little bit of a bigger role the last 3 years, and I do like he's been a DC at LSU. I do like that he has a little bit of experience in that role. Maybe not in the NFL, but it was in the SEC. So I got a little bit of encouragement from that. Now, how did Mr. Jones's defenses perform? So if we go back to when he was a DC, when we go back to LSU in 2021, his unit allowed 377 yards per game out of 130 FBS schools that ranked 64th. They allowed 26.6 points per game. That's 70th. So kind of in the middle. And he operated a 4-3 base defense, 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. Now, over the last 3 seasons as the passing game coordinator for Minnesota, Jones's secondary has dominated against the pass. If you look at the DVOA metric since 2023, which you used to be able to get for free, now you got to pay like $30 a freaking month for it. It's bullshit. Oh my God. 2023, they ranked 10th against the pass. 2024, they ranked 1st. This past year, they ranked 3rd. So his pass defenses perform very well. They also led the league in 2025, led the league in interceptions with 24, led the league in passes defended with 95, and interception rate with 3.8%. And they shared the top spot in total takeaways with 33. So they make big plays. That's good. Now, is that on Jones or is that on the defensive? Is that on Brian Flores? So I like the fact that he's learned under Brian Flores also. That's got to give you a little bit of encouragement. So the other thing is it does appear to be a scheme fit, both at LSU and with the Vikings. Jones has operated in defenses that use a lot of man as opposed to zone. He likes his defensive backs to press and compete at the catch point rather than rely on zone because Steve Wilks liked to use zone. So Dante Jones is a much better scheme fit for Aaron Glenn than Steve Wilks was. So that is something to be a little bit encouraged about. Tony is not feeling it for Dante Jones. Okay, that's okay. Again, first-time coordinator. Again, not a name I knew until about a week ago. But, yeah, he's right. The Jets need interceptions, and his defenses make plays. And I'll still take my chances with Brandon Stevens, A.Z. Thomas, and Jarvis Brownlee as my starting 3 corners for right now. Malachi Moore at 1 safety, but then get a real playmaking safety in there. Whether it's the draft or free agency, either one would do for me. And I can at least roll with that secondary because I want to focus on upgrading the front 7 when it comes to the defense. We know the Jets are going to need a linebacker, and because Quincy Williams will be gone. Maybe even 2 linebackers. I would like to see Jamie Sherwood switch over to like the weak side linebacker. I want to sign Alex Anzalone from Detroit. That's what I want. I want Anzalone to come over from Detroit and quarterback this Jets defense. To me, that is on defense the first call I'm making. If I'm Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji, because that was one of the biggest things. The Jets only were able to bring in Josh Reynolds from the Lions last year. One Lion who wasn't even all that good. Okay. This year, I need some of Glenn's guys here. And to me, Alex Anzalone is one of the best you could bring in. So I'm not saying he's Dick Butkus or anything like that, but I think he'll be like the Bart Scott when Rex Ryan came over. And we could use that. We could really, really use that. Okay, so let's look look ahead here, projected cap space. I want to spend a minute on this because we're going to talk about free agency, but I wanted to give us a feel for kind of where we are in the grand scheme of things. Now, cap space is changing all the time. Right now, the expected cap is $304 million. This is according to Spot Track. And the cap right now this year is $280 million. Next year, they're expecting $304. So when you do the math, the Jets have the fourth highest cap space to work with. You could round it off to $90 million. It's really $89.7 million. Okay. So the Jets are in the top 10. It's amazing the Chargers have so much space. Absolutely crazy. Then you have the Titans and Raiders, both of whom are terrible. You've got the Rams, Washington, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Seahawks, and amazingly the Patriots. I can't wait for Drake May to sign his long-term contract. That's all I can tell you. I can't wait for that to happen. But I also wanted to look at the bottom five. And far away, it's a big gap, the bottom five to everybody else. The Chiefs are $49 million under over the cap. And keep in mind, these types of teams might need to make some moves to shed some salary. So some of these teams' players could shake loose. The Vikings at $37 million over, the Cowboys at $31 million over. The Saints have been over the cap. It has been forever. They're $29 million over, and the Dolphins are $18 million over. So watch. Once you can start cutting players, count on some of these teams to cut a few players loose, and then you might see some new free agents that the Jets might want to jump on. All right. So now and I want to look at the dead cap. This is the one issue this particular year is the Jets have $75 million in dead cap money in 2026. That is going to hurt them. And almost all of it is Aaron Rodgers. Half of it pretty much is Aaron Rodgers. $35 million out of the $75 million. And then the Jets still need to pay Sauce and Quinnen from the trades. That's a combined $21 million almost. C.J. Mosley, Michael Carter II, Alan Lazard all still have decent-sized dead cap hits. There's a bunch of others at around $1 million or so, but these are the biggest ones by far. So the good thing is almost all of these will be gone after this year, or they're going to drop significantly. The other thing, though, to keep in mind, and this is the other concern, is if the Jets do cut Justin Fields, that I believe is what, another 22 million, I believe it is. So what are the Jets going to do there? Would the Jets take it all in 1 year and add it on, or would they spread it out? Because in 2027, there's very, very little dead cap money. I think they might spread that one out because the Jets are going to have to use some cap space. I think it might be in the best interest to spread out the Justin Fields cap hit. Same total amount of money, just spread out over 2 years instead of it all being in 1 year. So that's something to keep in mind. Tony's hoping the Jets find their quarterback in the second round like the Saints did last year. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. But you know what? The Saints did have Kellen Moore to help with that. You got to have the right coaching for it. And so if that happens, great. But then the Jets are going to have to bring in someone like a Bobby Slowick. They're going to have to bring in somebody to help develop that quarterback. Because, right now, if it's just Henry Strand, Charles London, I'm not feeling over. And North Turner's kid, Scott Turner, I'm not feeling it. Something is going to need to be changed. All right, so we're going to start talking about the offseason. And we still have a bunch of weeks until free agency even happens. So right now I want to do a little exercise. Stay or go. By the way, guys, quick reminder, hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Pound that like button. We get to 15 likes. We will spin the wheel a little bit later on. Or $15 in Super Chat. We will spin the wheel as well. We get both. We'll spin the wheel twice. All right, so stay or go. What I'm going to do is roll through all of the Jets free agents. I'm going to give you their age, their 2025 salary. If they have a market value assigned, I will tell you what that is. I'll just talk a little bit about them. Let me know what you think, if you want to keep these players, if you want to let them go, if you could take it or leave it. And I think you'll notice a certain pattern among some of these players. So we're going to start with the offense here. And I'm just gonna leave the screen up here for a little while. All right. So the first player is Tyrod Taylor. Now, Tyrod Taylor is 36 years old. He made $6 million this year. The market value on him right now is a 1 year, $4 million contract. So Spot Track would be expecting him to take a cap hit. Tyrod Taylor, it's a name. He's had a long career, but we know the injury risk. He can't go more than a couple of games without getting banged up. And looking at his stats this year, sadly, he was about the best that they had. He completed 59% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a QBR of 51.1. My preference is to overhaul the entire quarterback room if possible, including coach, including all 3 quarterbacks. I mean, if he was willing to stay on for $3 to $4 million and the Jets bring in like a rookie and another bridge quarterback, I can live with it, but he would be buried on the depth chart. So my preference is go. I could be talked into a stay, but it depends on the makeup of the quarterback room. But definitely my preference is to let Tyrod Taylor go if he's even willing to continue his career at this point. Let's get right into Breece Hall. This is probably going to be the biggest name and probably the most controversial name. 24 years old. Can you believe in 2025 he made just $2.25 million? That was it. So his market value on SpotTrack is 4 years, $41.5 million. So it's about $10.4 million per season. Now, if you were to franchise him, it's $14.1 million. If you transition tag him, remember, if it's transition tag, you don't get any draft compensation back. It's $11.4. My hope is the Jets can sign him at right in that $10 to $11 million range and give him a little bit of long-term security. I would like to keep Breece around. I do wonder about him supposedly, some say, checking out in that last game that may have cost him the team MVP award. Where does he stand with his teammates? I do have to wonder about that a little bit. But Breece Hall will get a long-term contract. When I say long-term, I mean 3 to 4 years somewhere. I look at some of these other running backs as of late. Josh Jacobs signed for 4 years, $46 million. That's 11.5 per. Kyron Williams signed for 3 years, $33 million. I think that's more than I think $11 million is more than reasonable for Breece. I really do. I don't think I would go past 12 though. I don't want to franchise him. I think 14.1 is a lot, and I don't want to be back in the same situation next year. So I'm hoping right around 11 million or so. I'd be happy with that. You could trade him, as Tony's pointing out, if it comes to that. Again, you're going to give me Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. I'll take my chances. I still will. So I would like to, if Breece wants to be here, I want to keep him. Andrew Beck, a fullback / tight end, 29 years old, made $1.3 million this year. Preseason star, played very, very well. Now, if you're going to be a run-focused team, if that's what the Jets want to be, you better have a great blocking tight end or a really good fullback. And Beck is fine. I think he just didn't play all that much. He played on just 11% of the offensive snaps, but he played 68% of special team snaps. So I would like to keep him, maybe more of a special teams role. If you want to try to get younger there with one of your later draft picks, you could do that. Because remember, the Jets got a lot of late picks. They got like 5-6 picks in the last 3 rounds or so. Maybe even more. It could be more than that, actually. It might even be 7 with the comp picks. So, actually not 7. I think it'd be 6 is what we're expecting. I think it's 6 on day 3. So if you want to bring in a fullback, a younger fullback to sort of take on that role, you could. But I'd be willing to bring Beck back for like, 1.5 million. A lot of these guys made 1.3 million. I'm just going to let you know. So if you want to give him a little increase as the cap goes up, maybe give him 1.5 million. Rad. Stone Smart. Now we're going to get some of the tight ends. Stone Smart, 27 years old, $1.3 million salary again. 7 catches on just 9 targets, 52 yards, 3 first downs. Even after Mason Taylor got hurt and went out for the season, Smart was barely used. I don't know. I'd like to keep him. Maybe he can surpass Jeremy. I think he's a better receiver than Jeremy Ruckert is. Maybe not a great blocker, but I think Smart still has a little bit of value at 27 years old. I take my chances on keeping him. Again, 1-year deal. That's it. Jelani Woods, also 27 years old, also made $1.3 million, was claimed by the Jets on waivers after the cutdown day. Woods is tricky. He missed 2 years of football before this year. And with the Jets this year, he was on the inactive list every freaking week. I just didn't understand it. He played 4 games, 1 catch, 4 yards. I was excited when the Jets brought him in. Apparently the coaching staff wasn't very excited. I don't think they believe in Woods. So at this point, I would let him go. I just don't think that it was a fit. I can't tell you why. But I would roll next year with Taylor, Ruckert, and Smart. If you want to draft another tight end just to sort of develop him late, okay, cool. But right now, I think those are the 3 tight ends I'd go with. Tony wants to keep Smart and let Woods go. Yeah, I'm hearing it. All right, we're going to get into, there's only, I'll give you 2 wide receivers. One is John Mechie, 25 years old, made just $2 million this year. Hey, the great Jets Chaos is here. Hey, Chaos, I put you and Matt over a little bit earlier. Hope you heard that, but I did enjoy your show tonight, particularly when you and O'Leary went off on that initial on that first fan. It was a very it helped get me through my 50-minute commute home. So I do appreciate it. And by the way, if you ever want to hear something funny, go listen to Jeremy when he's upset and he starts talking fast and his voice gets a little higher, and speed up the playback speed to like 1.25 or 1.5. It starts to sound like Micro Machines. Remember, if it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing. It is incredibly entertaining to listen to. Because Jeremy talks faster when he's upset, I can tell you. All right. Speed the playback up. You're going to love it. You're welcome in advance. All right. So John Mechie. All right. So his stats this year: 29 catches, 44 targets, 256 yards. Here's the interesting thing with John Mechie. 256 yards. 128 of those came before the catch. 128 of them came after the catch. Even split on receiving yards. I thought that was interesting. 2 touchdowns, 3 drops. It felt like he had more, didn't it? It felt like every week for a little period there he was having a big drop. But his drop percentage was 6.8%, which is not egregiously bad. I would still keep Mechie for depth. Take over the Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, Alan Lazardo. He's a fine depth wide receiver. I'd keep him for, I would keep him for 2 years and just see what happens. I really would. Josh Reynolds, 31 years old, made 2.7 this year, played only 5 games. My gosh. 11 catches on 21 targets, 101 yards. Goodbye. Go. I have no interest in that. Oh, how about this? Jeremy is heading to the Knicks game as they play tonight in Sacramento at the Golden One Arena. Hopefully the beam will not get lit up tonight. If you know, you know. And Mrs. Chaos got tickets for the birthday last month. Fantastic, brother. I hope you have a fantastic time at the game tonight. Love it. Tony wants to bring back the Chaos and the WA2K. Hey, every now and then we still do a guest collaboration. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think at some point, during the off season, I think I'll reach out to try to have a couple more guests on because, doing those shows can be a little bit challenging. You know what? Also, I want to get other people's perspective on draft prospects because, this is one thing I think some people look into more than I do. And I'll be doing my research over the next little while for sure. But I know Jeremy's been doing his homework on it. So, yeah, I will definitely have him on at some point during the off season. All right. Let's go to the offensive line. We got a couple of guards we need to talk about. And number one is AVT Elijah Vera-Tucker. This one actually might be the most polarizing that we talk about. 26 years old, made $3.9 million this year. And some people are going to talk about he's made out of glass, he's injury prone, you got to move on. Here's my optimism. These are not chronic injuries that he has suffered. He had 2 tricep tears, one in each arm, one in 2022, one in 2024. So it's not like it was the same arm that got hurt. He had the Achilles tear in 2023. I would still keep him. I still believe in his upside. I plug him in at left guard, and then I sign a center like I talked about. But it's got to be an incentive-laden deal. It's got to be based off games played. He's got to realize he is not going to get a long-term contract. And it's a shame because he is that good. I think he's one of the better guards in the NFL. I mean, I'm not saying top 10, but he's one of the best. I think his pass blocking is particularly good. But one of the two, he is legitimately a top 5 blocking guard when he is healthy. I do have to admit, though, if he did leave, I would not exactly be livid. If somebody was willing to offer him a multi-year contract and he got it, I'd say, God bless, go for it. And just sorry that he got hurt. But I definitely think that trade was worth it, that the Jets made to bring him in. It's just sometimes things like this happen. You can't kill anybody for it. It's just bad luck. But then you get to John Simpson. All right, 28 years old, made $6 million this past year. His market value, according to Spot Track, is interesting. 1 year, $6.3 million. Now, I don't think John Simpson's signing a 1-year deal anywhere. I think he's going to get 2 to 3 years. And I will give Simpson credit. He played all 17 games. He clearly fought through injuries, but just too many penalties. He had only 6 in 2024, but this year in 2025, he took 11 penalties. Whether it was holding, whether it was false start, whether it was a low block, Simpson to me became something of a liability. Look, it was a good signing for 2 years. I would move on. The only way I would offer a deal is if AVT left. Simpson would be my backup plan. but I would like to keep one of the two of them at left guard. But for sure, I would rather keep Elijah Vera Tucker as my starting left guard. Put him next to Olu. And again, Tippmann right guard, Armand right tackle. You add your center, through free agency, and you are rolling. You're going to have a much better run blocking line too if you do that. Keep a proven leader. Tony wants to keep AVT, keeping the feet cheap. I totally agree. Good guy from what I could tell, well respected. So I absolutely want to keep AVT. Also, there's a couple of other offensive linemen here who are free agents. And we have to say hello to Newman. Xavier Newman, 26 years old, $1.1 million made in 2025. He is the team's backup guard right now. David wants to know any banjo music while you're driving. Dave, we're still on offense right now. We got special teams coming. Patience, brother, patience. So Xavier Newman, he's played 21 games in 3 years, started 4 games in 2023. I keep him on a 1-year deal as the second backup guard behind Josh Myers. I would do that, but my expectation is he leaves. He's 26. You could replace him if you wanted to. And I don't know if Newman might want a bigger role. He might want to take a chance that he could start. I'm not saying he should, but right now, to me, Myers is your primary backup guard, and Newman might want that role. So I don't right now see that. Then you have Chukwuma Okorafor. How many people remember Chukwuma Okorafor is on the Jets? Anybody? All right. That's a good thing because he never had to play. 28 years old, made $1.3 million this year. He was the primary backup tackle. He was not good in the preseason when he did play. I would just move on and draft a backup tackle later on in the draft to develop. But also a free agent is Max Mitchell, Tigo's favorite player. That's right. 26 years old, made $1.1 million, played 15 games, started 3 games, but his snap counts have dropped drastically over the last 4 years when he's been here. He went in his rookie year 76% of snaps played to 50% to 36% to this year 8%. And a big part of that was the Jets just got better at tackle. I would bring Mitchell back. I would rather keep Mitchell than Okorafor, believe it or not. He's 2 years younger. I think he's just a flat out better player. So bring Mitchell back for 1 year, and then hopefully you have a developmental tackle who can take over that spot in a year or two. So I didn't think I would say this a year ago, but I would keep Max Mitchell on this roster. I really would. Okay, defensive. Onto the defense we go. Jawan Briggs. So this is an exclusive rights free agent. So just to explain that, any player with fewer than 3 accrued seasons, Briggs has 2, and has an expired contract is an ERFA. If his team offers him a 1-year contract at the league minimum, the player cannot negotiate with other teams. His 2025 salary was just $877,000, 24 years old. This is the easiest stay on the list to me. Absolutely emerged over the course of the season. Became, in my mind, the best defensive lineman that the Jets have. 17 games, 8 starts, 38 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 10 quarterback hits. His 4 sacks are second on the team. Had only 4 missed tackles all season. Played 52% of the snaps on defense, 30% on special teams. I don't know Briggs was playing so much special teams. And my hope is they can negotiate a multi-year contract, like a 3-year contract to really develop him because, you know what, I thought he earned that this year. So I would really do that. Now, if you only need to pay him the league minimum and then you still retain the rights next year, okay, great. If he remains an RFA after 2026 and you don't have to do it yet, you're like, we want to see you do it one more time. Okay, then that's great. You get to have him super cheap at his age 25 season. But yeah, Jawan Briggs to me is the easiest stay that there is. Now we get to the opposite of that and we talk about Michael Clemens. Like how I did that? All right. So 28 years old, made $1.1 million last year, which is about, $1 million too much. My God. All right. Let me just break this down. 16 games played this year, 1 sack, 9 tackles all year. 9 tackles this stiff had. 5 quarterback hits. His missed tackle rate the last 3 years is as follows: 12.9%, 10.5% this year, 18.5%. Not to mention plenty of penalties, not to mention a hot temper. And when you watch him play in space, Michael Clemens is worse to have in space than a jumbo can of Hormel chili. Oh my God. He is, Tony's right. Out, out, out. I can't wait to play this for Michael Clemens when he gets signed away by somebody in like the freaking European.
He gone!
I can't wait to drop the he gone for him. I cannot wait for that to happen. And that's just more evidence that the Jets need to make some big changes in that defensive lineman room. You know, I don't want to get rid of Will. I don't want to get rid of JJ. But if the Jets can bring in a starter at defensive end and rotate those two, you know, and rotate like all three of them, now we have something we can get more excited about. Okay, Jay Tufele at defensive tackle, 26 years old, $1.1 million. Well, he was great in that first preseason game against Green Bay that I got to go to. Since then, not much. 12 games played, 12 tackles, no sacks, no quarterback hits. Season ended on IR, gone. Quincy Williams, age 29. If you've been watching for the last few weeks, you know how I feel about him. Made $6 million this year. His market value now is just 1 year, $9.25 million. SpotTrack is saying, as disappointing as Quincy has been, he's got to take a prove-it deal. He's got to build his value back up. And he had a good 5-year run, no doubt. All-Pro in 2023. First team All-Pro for the Jets. Great signing by Joe Douglas for nothing. No question about it. And his 3.5 sacks this year were a career high, but to me, that's really more to the nature of the defense that was played. Remember, under Saleh and Ulbrich, it was the same defense every time. Rushed the four defensive linemen, the linebackers stay back in coverage. So Williams didn't have a lot of chances to sack the quarterback. He had more chances this year when they blitzed more, and he still only had 3.5 sacks. His missed tackle rate was terrible, 15%. You cannot have that from your linebackers. You can't. It gets worse in coverage. When he was targeted in the pass game, quarterbacks had a passer rating of 129. Woof. 129. Before this season, the quarterback rating against Quincy had never been over 100. That's how far his game fell this year. Even if he makes a comeback next year in Atlanta, San Francisco, wherever it is, this is not the right place for him. I don't care who they bring in. Change of scenery needed. The Jets committed big money to Jamian Sherwood. You can't do it again for Quincy Williams. It's over. Thank you. There's the door. Also, a couple other lower-level linebackers. Marcelino Mercuri Ball. He is a restricted free agent. 27 years old, made $877,000 this year. This was a lost season for him. Only played 5 games, 23 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. Of course, he had the infamous fish celebration that we'll never forget. But he is a special teams captain. I bring him back again 1 year. RFA, team captain, bring him back. Cam Jones, another restricted free agent. Jets signed him away from Kansas City. 26 years old, made $903K this year. 10 games, 5 tackles. Played 62% of special team snaps. A restricted free agent again. Whatever. I probably just keep Marcelino and let Cam Jones go. I just don't see the gain in keeping him. And to me, he's a player who looks very, very replaceable. Tony, that's why we need linebackers. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm fine with Jamian, but the Jets need a couple of new linebackers for sure. And again, Alex Anzalone to me makes all the sense in the world. I want some veteran leadership on this defense. I want a leader. And to me, he is a fantastic fit for this defense. Into the secondary we go. Isaiah Oliver, 29 years old, made $2.5 million this year, signed a 1-year deal to stay, played 14 games, 55 tackles, 3 passes defended. He dealt with a couple of injury issues over the course of the season. A knee issue forced him out towards the end of the year. He ended the season on injured reserve. He could play most positions in the secondary, which you appreciate, played a lot of special teams. I would just look to get younger there. I think he's one of those players where you can let him go. You look for somebody a little bit younger. Again, when you have all these draft picks, you could look for somebody new. So Isaiah Oliver was a nice signing for 2 years, but time to move on. Jasir Taylor. Okay. There's some interesting numbers with him. 27 years old, made $948,000, played 8 games with the Jets after 9 with the Chargers. 1 pass defended, 13 tackles. But he makes Sauce Gardner, when it comes to tackling, he makes him look like Mike Singletary. Okay? Patrick Willis, if you want me to get more recent. Luke Kuechly, take your pick. He has an 18.5% missed tackle rate. He misses 1 out of 5 tackles. When he's targeting the pass game, the opposing team's passer rating is 104. Move on. Secondary needs an overhaul, especially with the depth. The depth is where you need some help. All right. I'm fine with Quantez Stiggers maybe as a third cornerback. Ideally, it would be a fourth cornerback. When I say that, I'm talking about outside corners. And remember, by the way, while we're talking about depth cornerbacks, Brandon Eccles, I know he had a big play. I know that. But he was picked on constantly by C.J. Stroud. He was not good in coverage. Brandon Eccles, even though he might have been missed this year, he can make plays. He's not good at coverage. So I would like to see the Jets draft a cornerback somewhere along the way. I'm not going to be like Connor Hughes where it's like a top 3 need the Jets have. It's not. Okay. Quarterback, wide receiver, edge rusher, easily 3 bigger needs. But I would look to do something like drafting one in the 4th round or the 5th round, maybe with one of the comp picks, and put somebody in there that you could develop behind Stevens and behind Thomas, competes with Stiggers for that third outside cornerback job, and let's see what happens. All right, so Taylor would go, and then we have 2 safeties we need to talk about, even though I kind of don't want to. Andre Cisco. Guys, I'll throw myself on the sword. I couldn't have been more wrong about him. I was very much into signing him. I thought it would be a very good low-level signing to help with the safety room. Made $8 million this year. His market value now has decreased to 1 year, $3.7 million. His projected salary has been cut in half. I thought he was I would put him in my top 3 most disappointing Jets all season. I really would. 8 games played before he went down for the season with an injury. 1 pass defended, 41 tackles. When he was targeted, I've been talking about these opposing teams' passer ratings. The opposing team's quarterback, when they targeted Andre Cisco, was 130. That is damning. Andre Cisco, my God. I'm glad it was only 1 year. Thank God it wasn't like a Tremaine Johnson contract. That's all I can say. All right, just a few more of these, then we're going to do trivia, guys, so hang tight. So Andre Cisco, thank you very much. But, oh, my gosh, what a disappointment. And as far as Tony Adams go, Tony knows exactly where it's going. By the way, guys, if you have any thoughts on these players, give Tony a little bit of interaction. If you have any thoughts for me, feel free to, if you're able to, throw something down there in the chat. Tony Adams, 27 years old, made $3.2 million this year. His market value, not bad. 3 years, $19.5 million. They're projecting $6.5 million per season. And I want to spend a minute on Adams because depending on how you look at the stats, you can be encouraged or you can be discouraged. Played 12 games, 5 passes defended, 3 tackles for a loss, 4 interceptions in his career, obviously none this season. When he's targeting the passing game, the quarterback rating is 87.7, which you can kind of live with. That's okay. So we know he can make plays, but the problem is he is so risk-reward. His missed tackle rate is 15.5%. That's terrible for a safety. And a lot of it, in my mind, is not bad execution. It's bad angles. He takes the wrong first step. His instincts, to me, are not that great. So he isn't as bad, in my mind, as he appears to be sometimes when he's at his worst. But you do have to look for an upgrade to play alongside Malachi Moore. If someone is willing to give him that 3-year contract, that's great. But to me, it cannot be the Jets. I want to play Malachi Moore as a starting safety and bring in somebody else who is more of a difference maker, more of an impact player at that position. And if the Jets decide it's Caleb Downs, okay, I'll roll with it. Because let's be honest, Jets safety play, ever since Adams and May went away, have been terrible. Wow. Tony says Adams was overpaid at $3.2 million. Ouch. Yeah, and SpotTrack predicts that his salary is going to double. That's pretty wild. Okay, so we've done that. We've done offense, we've done defense, but we still need to do one more thing. We need to talk about special teams. So with that in mind,
Storybox Audio.
okay, very good. All right. All right, so 3 players on special teams that I want to talk about. Number 1 is the one that I think we've been looking at the most, and that's Nick Folk. So Nick Folk, 41 years old, made $2.8 million per year. Hey, Danger Zone, how you doing? Dane, are you hanging in there, buddy? I know you're disappointed that Dante Moore is going back to school, but are you hanging there okay now that it's been about 6 hours? You holding up? But I definitely appreciate you stopping by, buddy. Guys, we're up to 13 likes. 2 more likes, and we will spin the wheel. Got a few minutes left. To do it. All right, so Nick Folk led the league in field goal percentage, not just this year. He's led the league in percentage of field goals made 3 years in a row. This year, he was 28 for 29, extra points 22 for 22. He is more accurate now than he's ever been in his whole career, even better than he was with the Jets the first time. If he wants to come back, you bring him back. Sure, you could draft a kicker late, but you know what? I'm running it back with Nick Folk until you can't anymore. I wouldn't change anything. I really would. Maybe he doesn't have the biggest leg in the league, but he's got as accurate a foot as there is. So maybe he's not Cam Little, but I don't think he'd be missing playoff kicks like Cam Little did. Just saying. Then we get into Chris Boyd, 29 years old, $1.6 million made last year. This is a very touchy one. You know, we know he's a special teams player. He got hurt early on, which forced him out for the season. Then, of course, came the shooting incident, and thankfully he's doing better. But his career now comes second. Right now he has to – I don't know where he is in his rehab process, but thankfully he's going to live through it. That's most important. I don't necessarily expect him back. If he wants to play, if you want to give him another chance, that's great. But you know what? The special teams unit was fine without him. I just don't see the need in bringing him back. But more than anything, I hope he's going to be okay. Danger Zone is still in mourning. As a matter of fact, I think I heard Dane all the way from North Carolina. I'm in North Carolina. Dane, I can hear you all the way from here. I can hear you right now. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. I promise. It'll be okay. Dane's taking it hard, guys. Come on. Dane. All right, Dane. Take it easy. Okay. You'll be okay. You'll get over it. Okay. Dane, thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being willing to take the joke. All right. So Chris Boyd, I don't expect him back. There's one more player that I need to bring up. And this is a player that I have championed for the last year. You know he's one of my favorites. And it's Kene Nwangwu. Would you believe it if I told you Kene Nwangwu is 28 years old already? It feels like he's been in the league 2-3 years. But he was with Minnesota for a while before he came to the Jets. This year he made $1.4 million. Not a lot. And in the 2 years with the Jets, he's got 2 kickoff return touchdowns. In his 5 years in the NFL, he's got 5 touchdowns. Also this year, he was used running back a little bit, 13 rushes for 49 yards. What's frustrating with Kene is he gets hurt so often. He played 12 games this year, but it felt like every other week he had an injury that might keep him out, that made him questionable. And remember, the fact that he got hurt that first game against Pittsburgh was devastating because it forced Xavier Gibson into the kick return role, and, well, we know what happened. And the thing that might make Kene expendable is that Isaiah Williams can punt return as well as kick return. And I like Kene. I want to keep him, but again, I think it would have to be a 1-year deal because the injury risk does concern me. I'd be willing to give him a slight bump, maybe to $1.6, $1.7 million. And if they're willing to, if he'll stay, that's great. But you know what? I think Isaiah emerged so well that if Kene were to go, I wouldn't be overly worried about it. And with Jets' ability to scout special teams talent, why wouldn't we have the confidence that with one of their 7th-round picks or even an undrafted free agent, they can find the next Kene Nwangwu? They can find somebody who's nearly that dynamic. I got the confidence that they can do that. So, Tony, his injury gave us Isaiah Williams. I can't exactly disagree with that. So that is where I am as far as stay or go goes. And one or two other. Want to get into this right now? Yeah, I'll get into this next week. Yeah, we've been on for quite a while. Let's see how we're doing real quick on likes. Looks like we're still at 13. Okay, guys, I think it's about that time. Every week, you know what happens. I head down into the labyrinth of Jets knowledge. I bust open the books. I dust off the Encyclopedia Britannica. I even pull up the Jets dark web, and I, Watch2K99, challenge you, the most loyal fans of the most loyal fan base in the National Football League. Just how much do you know about your New York Jets? So if you are ready, and I expect you to be ready, let's play. You know what time it is. Jets trivia. So, you all know the rules. I'll put 5 minutes on my clock, and I will put the question on the chat. Put your answer or answers there in the comments, and I will let you know if the answer is correct or incorrect. So this is going to be a Jets playoff-related question because right now it is the time for the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
I agree, Jim. I feel the exact same way you do. I just hope we can win a game. All right, so let's – by the way – and the Rangers are down 4-0 to Ottawa after the first period. That team is pure shit. They are pure, unadulterated, stinky, smelly, steaming shit. All right, that's all I'm going to say about the Rangers probably for the next 9 months. All right, tonight's question. Is the answer Dante Moore? Well, it's Jet playoff related, so hey. Unless the question is who will beat the Jets in their next playoff game when they play it in 5 years, the answer very well could be Dante Moore. All right, your question tonight, seriously, as I got to pull the timer back up. Here we go. Okay, 5 minutes. Goes like this. Name the 3 Jets to catch receiving touchdowns versus the Colts in the 2003 41-0 wild card victory. We're just coming out of the wild card weekend. And one of the best wild card wins that the Jets ever had was that 41-0 blowout over Peyton Manning and the Colts. 3 Jets caught a touchdown from the GOAT, Chad Pennington. Who were those 3 Jets? One play is very, very well known. But yeah, it's like after that one play, it's like the rest of the game is kind of a blur, isn't it? It's like how many memorable plays are there from that 41-0 win? Let's see how we do. Danger Zone goes with Santana Moss. Is Santana Moss correct? It sure is. Santana Moss caught a touchdown in that game. Very good job, Danger. All right, guys, I'm going to have to, after trivia, we'll have to call it a night because I do have a phone call or two that I do have to make, some family stuff that I gotta handle. Everything should be okay, but I do need to make a phone call or two. So after this, we're gonna call it a night. Okay. All right. So Santana Moss is one. There are 2 more. 2003 with her. Yeah. Well, I believe. Yeah. Well, Herman Edwards was still our coach, right, Herman?
You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
That's right, Herman. You know it. And perhaps not surprisingly, still no news on Kyle Tucker. When is that ever going to happen? Hey, Tony, you're very welcome, buddy. You're very welcome. Danger goes with Wayne Corbett. Is it Wayne Corbett? No, I don't think. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Wayne was. I think he was still on the 03 team. I think. Yeah, he was there, but he did not catch a touchdown. Caught a touchdown against Green Bay the week before, 1 or 2, but. So David goes with Dustin Keller. How about Dustin Keller? No, that's way. 2003 was well before Dustin Keller's time. I will tell you this. One was a running back. How about that? You got 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. So, yeah. The one that I think is pretty easy is a running back. And then there's one other player that's a little bit harder, but if you were a Jet fan then, you definitely know the name. We're not going overly obscure. Danger Zone goes with Orlando Storm coach Anthony Beck. No. Anthony Beck is not correct. Tony Alexio goes Chris Ivory. How about Chris Ivory? No, Chris Ivory didn't come to the Jets till John Idzik was the GM. So that would have been, a decade later. Yeah, so, Chris Ivory was not there at the time. So go back to 03 with Herman, with Chad. Danger Zone goes with maybe the best of all time, Curtis Martin. How about Curtis Martin? Grade 9. In the ballpark, but not quite. Guys, we got a minute 15 seconds left. I'll give you a hint. I'll give you 2 words. Screen pass. Danger with an answer. No, he did not score. No, not that particular player. Danger Zone trying Leon Washington. No. I don't think Leon was there just yet in 03, right? I think Leon came a couple, 2 years later, maybe. Yeah, I don't think Leon was a Jet yet. Yeah, but a running back, and both of these guys were here for quite a while. The great Sharon McClain is here. Sharon, I hadn't seen you in a while. How you been? Sharon goes with Richie Anderson. How about Richie Anderson? Yes, that famous screen pass early on when the Jets had two or three offensive linemen making the way, and Richie took it to the house, and pretty much at that point, you knew the Jets were not going to lose that game. And Danger goes with, he spelled it correctly, impressive, Lavernius Coles for the win. Is it Lavernius Coles? I'm afraid not. No. We're down to 15 seconds, guys. 5. Oh, boy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're out of time. Very, very close. All right, let's try to narrow it down. Tight end. Tight end in 2003. Who was the Jets' tight end back then? It was not. It was somewhere between Mickey Schuler and Dustin Keller. Yeah, somewhere between Kyle Brady and Chris Herndon. Danger Zone gives great question. Sharon, what do you think? It is not Kyle Brady. Like I said, it's not Kyle Brady. Yeah, it is not Austin Safarian Jenkins. Or just the litany of amazing tight ends the Jets have had over there. It is not Jeff freaking Cumberland. Sharon McClain, she polishes it off. Chris Baker. That is correct. Richie Anderson, Santana Moss, and Chris Baker was a Jet for a long time. Just one of those guys like Bilal Powell, who's like always there, but doesn't necessarily, maybe not get remembered all that much, but good job. Sharon comes in and takes care of it. So well done, guys. Took a little bit of help, but we did get there. All right. So just real quick, how we doing? I'm just going to make one last check here. How we doing on likes? Okay. All right, everybody. I'll tell you what. I want to say we're going to call it a night, but not for about an hour and a half. And with basically now that I'm doing 11-hour days at work, when you factor in the drive and the break, it's quite a day. But we got through it. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. I will be doing my my divisional round picks. I plan on releasing that video probably Friday night. I think that's when I'll be able to drop that. I don't know if I'll be able to do it Thursday night. If I can, I will. But I'm thinking most likely it'll be Friday, but definitely by then. Also, if you want to watch some Mets content, I got videos out about the Mets first base situation and their pursuit of Kyle Tucker. Those are some pretty brief videos. Check those out if you want. Guys, enjoy the football this weekend. If you're a New York Rangers fan, don't get too wasted tonight. Everybody, have a great rest of your week, and you guys know where it's coming from. I will see you all right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair. Good night, everybody.